everyone and welcome to The Learning Ladder. Today I wanted to talk about Charlotte Mason and notebooking. Now this is something that you hear a lot about in the Charlotte Mason world, how much of a fan she was of notebooking. She would recommend having various different notebooks, so from nature study to the commonplace notebook to all those, to an array of different notebooks. And you can feel like, I think that it's overwhelming and you don't know where to start, and you feel like it's just great for someone else but not for you. And there are so many benefits to notebooking. There are absolutely so many. I can't even go into all of them in this video because it would take so long, but it's interest-led learning. That's one of the most important things that I can think of when it comes to notebooking. Your child is taking the initiative, the desire, the pleasure in choosing something that is interesting to them and making little notes on it. It doesn't have to be, as I said, amazing. You know, think about, you know, an artist's notebook or something like that, or watercolor and beautiful. If it is, great, and it's what you want, that's perfect. But what's more important is their desire and their motivation to do it themselves, or for you to help them, as is in the case of the little younger ones. And it's such a great thing to look back on as well. So I would say the main benefits for me are interest-led learning. You can also use it to reinforce learning. You can also use it to encourage, say, a reluctant writer, or a child who doesn't like the typical worksheet style and is either bogged down by it or is just not interested in it at all. You can also use it for revision purposes, so they can obviously go back and revisit what they've learned before. You can use it for expression. There are so many different ways you can use notebooking, and as I said, it doesn't have to be the most wonderful piece of art you've ever seen in the Louvre. You know, it can be what you want it to be, what your child wants it to be. The most important thing is that you encourage them and you provide the tools. So don't hide the markers in the cupboard where they can't use them. Don't hide all the, you know, the pens away where they can't use them, because how are they going to create their piece of work without, you know, the necessary tools? I know it can be so tempting, you know, especially if your kids draw on walls and stuff, but I think, to me, it's more important for them to have access to the tools, but you to explain to them how we use them, as opposed to locking them away and only bringing them out for special occasions. That's just my point of view. You know, you do what's right for you, but just think about it logically. How is your child going to have the excitement and motivation to do something if you don't provide the exciting tools? We have stickers out constantly, we have glue out, and, you know, obviously you can say, well, your daughter's 9. Of course you do. I've had them out her whole entire life. I've just shown her how to use them and where to use them, and if we've had little accidents, then we've just dealt with it at the time. You know, most things can be fixed. Usually once you've shown a child that we don't do that, you know, this is where we do our colouring or whatever, they usually grasp it quite quickly. I don't see the point of hiding away supplies. That's just my opinion. So have the glue out, have the stickers out, have, you know, all the fun stuff that will encourage them to notebook out, ready for them to use. Okay, so does it have to be elaborate? No, it doesn't. And this is how we've done it over the years. So I started notebooking with her when she was 2, and we've done it ever since. You know, I'm particularly about showing my daughter's work without permission on the internet and things like that, but there are a couple of things that I know she's absolutely fine with me showing you. So we started, as I said, notebooking when she was 2, and what we did was she would draw a picture and then she would tell me in her little 2-year-old voice what she'd like me to write, and I would just write it down for her, and then we continued on. So I found a couple of things from when she was just turned 4, and it's just like, oh, looking back. So we'd make little books. We just used regular old white paper or coloured paper, and at that time I didn't have a binder or anything, a binding machine. I would just staple it when she'd done. So she'd draw a picture, then I'd ask her, oh, you know, what does that picture look like? You know, what are you trying to say in that picture? What is that picture telling you? Is this a story? And then she would just start telling me what her picture meant to her, and I would just write a little story for her. So I would just, you know, it could be something really basic. And you know, I just write the words for her in her little story, and she to this day she just absolutely adores looking back on her little books that she made from when she was 3, 4. I have one from when she was 2, and I was just looking for it and I can't find it because I think she's taken it off somewhere, but it's just treasure. It's just an absolute treasure. Stickers as well, if they don't want to draw or they don't feel confident drawing, they can use stickers to create a little scene. We've done that so many times over the years. But just the encouragement and, you know, the praise when they do you know, they present something to you, and rather than scrutiny, you know, what's that supposed to, you know, not like that at all. You know, positive, you know, oh wow, that's an amazing picture, tell me about it. What is this picture? What did you do in this picture? What are you doing? Ask questions. What's that over there? Oh, is that the sky? You know, and then just question them more, and it helps them with story development as well, because you're piecing things together for them about the drawing that they've made. So those are some of her earlier books, and then once I got my binding machine I could bind stuff, and I went back and bound earlier pictures. And if you see at the top my little scroll, I just write what she was telling me that went along with the picture, and you know, just bind them for them if you've got a binding machine, or staple them if you don't. It's just such a great way to keep memories. And so that's going back, you know, pre starting school. We've done it for so long. And also you can use notebooking for narration too, which is obviously kind of what those little stories are in terms of what they're wanting to present to you. But obviously you can use it in a school form as well, so you can watch or read a book, watch a video, and then ask them to draw a picture and tell you what they learnt from watching that video or reading that book, and then you can write it down for them, or they can write it, obviously if they're old enough to do so, or if it's in between, you can write it and then have them copy some of what you've written and onto their picture themselves. So, you know, you write whatever it is onto a blank piece of paper, and then they can copy it on. But, you know, make sure it's fun. Make sure you're not pushing them too much, because then the joy will just go. Don't expect them to write reams and reams and reams. If you are asking them to do copy work, space it out over time. You know, do a little bit, a sentence a day or a couple of words a day or whatever. It's got to be fun. If it becomes a chore, then you're not going to want to do it. But we graduated obviously to when we started school, and we've used these notebooks. This is our current one for 4th grade, but we've used these notebooks pretty much every year, and basically it's just A4 lined paper. We also have the smaller ones as well, but I think these, personally I prefer these for notebooking, because there's more obviously space to do everything on. And you know, we do all kinds of stuff in here, so she'll draw stuff, or she'll write little things about what she's learned. We'll stick in diagrams and things of what we're talking about that day, and it's just an amazing way to reference and look back on. You can, depending on what type of paper you use, you can do watercolor in there. This paper I think is about 70, so yeah, you can do watercolor in there, but we don't tend to in this one. We tend to use her sketchbook or watercolor paper to do that in, but then you obviously can rip it out if it's perforated and then stick it into your notebook. But you know, this does hold marker pretty well. So there's from her marine biology, and then we also have one for geography. So we do notebooking in science, we do notebooking in geography, we do notebooking in history, but now that we've got journaling time, we're doing a lot of it into our, when I say now we've got it, I mean now we've got the actual physical book. But before I had that, we would just do our notebooking in the history in here. So we've got we've got ancient Egypt and the Stone, Bronze and Iron Age all in here. And then obviously once I made Journal Through Time into an actual physical book, and we started notebooking in there. But before that we used to use just sticking it in here. These are some of the things from the Evermore pockets. And then obviously she's got her own drawings and pictures and little writing that she used, that she's noted down in her notebook. So we use notebooks in history, we use them in science, we use them in geography, we also use them in language arts as well. And for language arts we do things like this. So draw your own comic books. This is just a book full of templates where she can make her own stories up, and that is another method of notebooking. It might not be as obvious that it is, but it is, because they're writing their own stories, and it doesn't have to be fiction. They can do them non-fiction stories, which is just the same. So be versatile and have variety of notebooking. It doesn't all have to be blank paper where they stick things on or write little things. This is notebooking too. It's just a different way of presenting the information. And you know, which I don't know any, well, I'm sure there are, but I know few children that don't enjoy comic books. So you give them their own, for them to be able to write their own little stories in, and you say, okay, let's do a story about a wombat, for example. We went to see wombats recently, that's why it came to mind. But you know, see, you know, what do they eat? You could do the life cycle. You could do the habitats. You know, what environment do they live in? There's so many ways that you can do notebooking in a comic book format, and you know, what child would not enjoy that? I'm sure there are some out there, but lots of kids love comic books, so you can't really go wrong with that. And then we have notebooking too. She uses this one for language arts, and this one has a place for her to draw, a place for her to write, and then 2 additional lined pages to write. And then she also has a comic book template in here as well. We tend to use this one for language arts, but again, they're very versatile. You can use them for any subject. You could use them for science. That would work just as well. And I have, well, I'm about to order all my notebooks for the new school year, and I'll show you those once they come in a little haul in case you are interested. And then this is another great way to do notebooking. And I did this, I think it was not last Christmas, the Christmas before, so that would be 2020 Christmas. And basically, if you have read The Jolly Christmas Postman or The Jolly Postman, you know that it's a book where there are envelopes in there, and they get to, there's a story obviously, and then they get to look inside the envelope, and you know, it can be anything. It could be a game, it could be a card, it could be a little activity. So I made her own, and I'm not going to show you the pages she's done for privacy. I don't like showing my daughter's work on the internet to strangers, but the gist of it was there was a little space for her to write something, and then I just stuck in some envelopes, and then she could make little interactive things to put in the envelopes, and it was just a book full of those, and that was such a fun way to, it was such a fun activity generally, but it's such a fun way to look back on as memory making. So educational. You can also notebook in binders. We do that too. We've had notebooking where I've just stuck a ton of white paper and notebooking paper into a binder. She can notebook away in those too. This is not all we do for notebooking. It's just I've just grabbed a few things to show you, but there is just many ways that you can do it, but some of the ways we do it, and I wanted to show you them because I want you to understand that it doesn't have to be this perfect watercolor notebook that you would see. You know, it is still high quality notebooking, even if it doesn't look what you expect it to, because at the end of the day, it's what your child's produced, it's what they've enjoyed making. They will gain so much knowledge by making their own notes. And if you think about when you're in university, you have to do that anyway from an academic point of view for your essays and, you know, just for your classes in general. So it's a great stepping stone to that, but it's so much more than that. There's no doubt in my mind that Charlotte Mason was a genius to actually come up with, I don't think she necessarily came up with it, but she encouraged it in her schools, and they also encouraged the parents, because it's just genius. It's absolutely genius. There's nothing better than seeing someone excited about learning and seeing them learn through seeing someone else learn, and as the observer, and you know, just seeing the dots and just everything click into place. It's just an amazing experience, and notebooking really encourages a love of learning, in my opinion. And as an adult, don't forget you to do it too. Modelling is really important, as we all know. With our kids, we model good behaviour, we model manners, you know, and modelling learning, modelling new skills. So whether that's you picking up a book, whether that's you doing a craft or an activity, whether it's you grabbing the markers and drawing with them while they're drawing, whether it's you know, you going to bed early if you're tired, so modelling that's what we do. You know, we model as parents, don't we, constantly? So what you should, if you can, notebook too. So I love journals and notebooks. I have this giant stack on my desk of notebooks. I pretty much have a notebook for everything. And some of them I can't use because they're just too pretty, which is crazy. I will at some point, but I have a dream journal that I bought that I just can't use because it's just beautiful, and I feel intimidated to draw in it because nothing I could do would do it justice, if you like. And that is completely the wrong mindset to have in notebooking. Don't have that mindset. Whatever you do, it's special because you're individual and you're unique, and you know, whatever scribble, even if it's just the most pathetic drawing, as in my case, it's your own work, it's your own effort, it's your own creativity, and that's what's important, not what someone else would think, and not what someone else's standard would be. And I think that's another thing that puts us off as an adult to do stuff like this, because we think we can't draw, we think we have nothing important to say, you know, we just what. And that if you're modelling that, obviously not on purpose, but it's still going to come across. So positive mindset, you know, you're as good as anyone else in terms of your artistic ability. Go for it. Don't let them see you flounder thinking you can't do stuff. You know, show them that you can try, and yes, you may well fail, but it's the trying and attempt that's just as important as the outcome. So I love notebooking. So this is my bullet journal, and because I'm not the best drawer, I tend to stick loads of things in it, and the things that I stick in it just bring me joy. So for example, when I first set it up, I made like this little peekaboo window with my calendar and things. It just gave me joy to see it. And you know, I drew my little bookshelf, and no, I'm not an artist, but you know, I enjoyed doing it. It was fun. And you know, it just, I stuck all my little goals for that year in envelopes and things, and it I don't know, it just brings me joy to look back on it and think I could have left it blank because I can't draw, or I got it in my head that I can't draw, I'm not artistic, but you know, I didn't, and I tried, and you know, it's something to look back on and think, you know what, I may not be an artist, but I really enjoyed it. And the thing is, she can see that when I'm doing it myself, and she'd always come over and be interested in what I was sticking in my notebook, and then you know, she'd go and get hers out and start to, whether it was her comic book or you know, whatever it was, she'd go and get her pens and start drawing too at the same time. She is a very good drawer, not like me, but you know, it's just modelling positivity, obviously, isn't it, and encouraging, and you know, just try, even if you've only got 5 minutes, just try and get your notebook out at some point where they can see you doing it too, and that will really encourage them as well. And then I also, for example, for this is my recipe one. I do have several. I have recipes that I write into my meal planner book, but then sometimes I will cut recipes out of magazines and just stick them in to my little journal too. Yeah, so that's everything I have to say on notebooking right now. If you've got any questions, leave them below. I just say go for it, and there's no too early in my opinion. Obviously you've got to adjust your expectations, so you probably will be doing all the writing, which is absolutely fine. Don't let anyone say to you that your kid is not developing if they're not writing, because they need to be able to be physically ready to do so, and you know, at 2 and 3, and they're just not, and they are able to tell you this. So, well, I know my daughter was elaborate stories at that age. You listen to any 3-year-old and they'll tell you all kinds of stuff. It's amazing. I love kids so much. But if you just listen to any 3-year-old, they'll have a tale to tell, and just write it down for them and encourage them to draw if you know, if they don't like drawing, you know, or I mean, most kids do. I think it's the whole, you learn that when you go to school, as far as I'm concerned anyway, that you can't do stuff. Well, I know I did anyway, because I remember colouring and drawing so much when I was like younger, but then when I went to school, I suddenly got the into my head I couldn't draw. But yes, just encourage them to draw, and you know, get the fun markers out and everything else, and you'll be amazed. There's never too early, as I said. Just don't push in terms of the writing. Write for them until they're, you know, more comfortable to do it themselves, because there's nothing worse than your hand aching and someone's forcing you to push through all your expectations and your standards for what you think they should be able to do in their little notebooks, when that is not what's important. What's important is that they're trying, that they're interested in it, that they're motivated, and even the basic little picture and a couple of sentences can give them so much joy, even later on when they look back at it. Oh wow, I did that when I was this age. I hope that encouraged you to give notebooking a try if you haven't yet, and also to adjust your expectations if you're comparing your child to, you know, a notebook that should be in the Louvre, because it should be in their Louvre, which is most important, not what everyone else thinks is a piece of art that should go in the Louvre. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up. I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye for now.